me tell you something. When you stop contacting a man, when you stop chasing him, when you stop calling, texting, explaining, begging, proving your worth, something inside him shifts, not immediately, not right away, but slowly, silently. It hits him like a wave that he never saw coming. Because let's be honest, men are used to attention. They're used to effort. They're used to someone checking on them, someone making sure they're okay, someone keeping the line open. So when that line goes quiet, it confuses him. It frustrates him. And at first, he'll act like he doesn't care. He'll act unbothered. He'll even tell his friends, I'm good, I needed space. But trust me, that's pride talking. Because deep down, he starts doing two things that tell the real story. The first thing he does, he starts watching you. Oh yeah, he turns into an observer, not an action taker. He starts checking your social media, watching your stories, reading your captions, zooming in on your pictures, trying to see who's around you, trying to decode your happiness. He might not text you, but he's watching, because now the silence is his teacher, and it's teaching him something he didn't realize before. You weren't chasing him because you were desperate. You were chasing him because you cared. And when you stop, he starts seeing the difference between a woman who begged for attention and a woman who simply gave her energy out of love. Now he's sitting there thinking, wait a minute, she really stopped texting me? She really stopped explaining herself? She really didn't reply to that message I posted hoping she'd take the bait? Oh, that's when the panic sets in. Because men are not good with losing consistency. They crave it, even if they don't admit it. Consistency is comfort. And when you take it away, it shakes their ego. It stirs their emotions. And that's when he starts to realize she wasn't just another woman. She was peace. She was loyalty. She was real. See, when you go quiet, a man has no choice but to hear his own thoughts. And those thoughts get loud, louder than he wants. Because now he starts thinking, what if she's done for real? What if she found someone else? What if she finally realized she deserves better? And you know what he does next? He starts scrolling back, reading old messages, remembering old moments, those late night conversations, those laughs, those little inside jokes. And he starts missing it. Not because of ego now, but because of connection. Because once you stop feeding his energy, he starts to feel his hunger for you. Now, the second thing he does is even more revealing. He starts trying to replace you. Oh, yes, he'll talk to new women. He'll flirt. He'll entertain distractions, but it won't hit the same. Because the truth is, when a woman has loved a man genuinely, no copy ever satisfies him the same way. No text feels as deep. No laugh feels as warm. No attention feels as peaceful, because what you gave him wasn't performance. It was presence. You were real. You were honest. And realness doesn't fade from memory. It lingers. He'll meet someone new and subconsciously compare her to you. How you talked, how you listened, how you looked at him when he spoke, how you gave him space, but still made him feel seen. He won't say it, but he'll feel it. And that's the part of you he can't get rid of. It's not your looks. It's not your texts. It's your energy. It's your peace. It's your vibe. Because when a man meets peace in human form and loses it, every storm afterward feels heavier. And here's the part that's funny but true. When you stop contacting him, suddenly everything you did that he took for granted becomes the very thing he misses the most. He misses your good morning messages. He misses your did you eat check-ins. He misses how you believed in him when he didn't even believe in himself. He'll never admit it out loud, but he'll feel it every day. And that's when the chase flips. That's when he starts to feel what you used to feel. At first, He won't reach out. He'll wait for you to break first. Because men love to believe they're in control, but days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and that silence starts to burn. That ego starts to crack. And before he knows it, he's sitting there at 2 a.m., staring at your name in his phone, wanting to type, wanting to reach out, but he's stuck between pride and emotion. And that's where karma speaks. Because the same silence he gave you now becomes his own mirror, showing him what it feels like to be on the other side of indifference. You see, when a woman stops contacting a man, she's not just withdrawing her messages. She's reclaiming her energy. She's saying, I've done my part. Now it's your turn. And if he doesn't rise to meet you, the universe will, because energy never disappears, it redirects. It blesses you with peace, clarity, and a new glow. And that glow drives him insane because now you're not the same woman he left. You're upgraded, you're healed, you're detached. And nothing terrifies a man more than seeing a woman he thought he could always come back to finally move on. And listen, when you stop contacting a man, he starts to notice how quiet peace really sounds because when you were around, you gave him laughter, stability, reassurance. And when that's gone, the silence gets heavy, the bed feels colder, the day feels longer, and he'll try to fill that gap with noise. But noise never replaces peace. And that's when it hits him. She wasn't the problem. I was just too blind to see the blessing right in front of me. Now, some men, they'll test you. They'll post things to see if you react. They'll throw little bait lines like, hope you're good, or I saw something that reminded me of you. But don't fall for it because that's not him trying to rebuild. That's him trying to see if he still has access. And once you give him that access, he relaxes. He goes right back to comfort and the cycle repeats. But when you hold your silence, when you keep your peace, when you choose your self-respect over attention, that's when his lesson begins. Because silence is louder than any speech. Silence teaches more than confrontation ever could. And if he was genuine, if his heart was truly connected to yours, that silence won't just make him miss you. It'll make him grow. It'll make him reflect. It'll make him realize that his actions cost him something rare, something divine. And maybe, just maybe, it'll make him come back with humility instead of pride. But even if he doesn't, you'll win because the moment you stop reaching out, you started reaching higher. And that's where the shift happens. Every time you stop chasing someone who doesn't reciprocate, you're sending a message to the universe, I'm ready for better. And the universe listens. It starts clearing space. It starts redirecting energy. It starts preparing you for someone who won't need to be reminded of your value, someone who won't require distance to appreciate your worth, someone who will text first, call first, and show up because they want to, not because they feel guilty. When you stop contacting a man, you reclaim your power, your focus, your softness, and that feminine energy, that quiet grace becomes magnetic. And that's when everything you were trying to force before begins to flow naturally. That's when peace returns. That's when confidence grows. Because silence isn't weakness, it's strategy, it's spiritual alignment. It's the moment you stop begging for closure and start creating peace. And the truth is, some men don't change until they lose access, until the door closes, until the silence becomes permanent. And that's when he realizes he should have cherished the version of you that still cared. Because when you stop contacting him, you don't just walk away physically, You remove your spirit from his world, and that's what he feels the most. The absence of your energy, the absence of that love that used to pour effortlessly. That's what haunts him in the quiet moments. That's what makes him stare at your name on his phone, wishing he could turn back time. So, when you stop contacting a man, he does two things. First, he watches, then he replaces. But neither brings him peace, because what he's really looking for is the feeling he lost, the energy he can't recreate, the peace he took for granted. And when he realizes he can't find it again, that's when the regret begins. That's when the lesson settles. That's when he understands that silence is not rejection. It's reflection. It's growth. It's power. And for you, that silence is your healing season. It's your reset. It's your transformation. Because the woman who stops chasing becomes the woman who attracts, and the woman who chooses peace becomes the woman who commands respect. And that's the kind of energy that makes a man look back and say, she was the one. Even if he never says it out loud, he'll feel it forever, because peace leaves fingerprints on the soul, and no one forgets the person who brought them peace. So don't worry about whether he'll text. Don't stress about whether he misses you, because trust me, he does. Maybe not today, maybe not in words, but in silence, he feels it. Every time his phone lights up and it's not you, every time he hears that song you both loved, every time he meets someone new and the vibe isn't the same, he feels it. And that's the beauty of detachment. You don't have to prove your value. Your absence will do it for you. Because the truth is, when you stop contacting a man, you don't lose anything. You gain clarity, you gain peace, you gain self-respect, and you remind yourself that you were the prize all along. And that realization, that calm power, that quiet confidence is what makes you untouchable, unbothered, and unforgettable. So let him watch. Let him wonder. Let him feel the silence. Because that silence isn't empty. It's full of your strength, your dignity, your energy, and that's what he'll never find again. Not in texts, not in calls, not in anyone else. Because once a man loses a woman who truly loved him, he doesn't recover. He just learns to live with the echo of what he lost. When you stop chasing, a man finally starts seeing your worth, because the moment you step back, the energy shifts, the balance changes, and suddenly he feels the absence of what he thought would always be there. That consistency, that care, that love, that soft voice that always replied, that effort that came so naturally from you, it becomes quiet, and that silence becomes louder than any word you've ever spoken, because men often don't understand value when it's in abundance. They understand it when it's gone. They realize importance not in your presence, but in your absence. And when you finally stop over-explaining, over-texting, over-caring, he starts to wonder, what changed? What did I do? And that wondering becomes the beginning of awareness, because when a woman pulls away, it shakes something inside a man's ego. It wakes him up from comfort. It removes the illusion of control. It makes him see that love cannot be demanded. It has to be earned. And for the first time, he feels that emptiness, that silence, that stillness that used to be filled with your laughter, your energy, your attention. And he realizes he's not the same without it. Because the truth is, when you give too much, people forget the weight of your giving. They start expecting it like oxygen. And when you finally stop, they choke on the air they took for granted. When you step back, you teach a silent lesson. one that words could never deliver. You showed that your love was not a weakness. It was a gift. You proved that your attention is not a guarantee. It's a privilege. And when you stop chasing, you regain your power because now he's forced to sit with himself, to face his reflection, to see how his actions contributed to this distance. And that reflection burns because it's no longer you doing the emotional labor. It's him feeling the emotional weight. The same weight you carried for so long while waiting for him to match your energy, to meet you halfway, to choose you as fully as you chose him. And when you finally stop reaching out, he's left wondering what happened to that woman who always checked in, who always understood, who always forgave. And that's when the realization hits him like a wave. Because now he understands that love isn't supposed to be one-sided, that it's not your job to keep something alive. He's letting die. And when you stop chasing, you stop rescuing him from the consequences of his own behavior. You see, there's a deep beauty in detachment. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring for yourself. Because you realize you can't heal in the same place that keeps hurting you. Because you understood that your peace is more valuable than any half-hearted attention. And that lesson is powerful. It's transformational. It's what makes you magnetic. Because now your energy says, I'm not begging for love. I'm becoming love. I'm not proving my worth. I'm living in it. And that energy draws respect. It commands attention, not through effort, but through presence. Because the woman who is no longer desperate to be chosen becomes unforgettable. She becomes the one that stays on his mind. She becomes the standard he compares others to because her silence, her peace, her absence all carry the echo of everything he lost. And that echo doesn't fade easily. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. Not through manipulation, but through authenticity, because you move from a place of self-respect, and that changes the whole game. Suddenly, you're no longer seeking validation. You're standing in your value. And that's when you start to see who's truly for you, because the one meant for you won't need to be chased. He'll meet you with effort, with clarity, with consistency. He'll match your energy because he understands what you bring to his life. And if he doesn't, you'll no longer break yourself trying to make him see, because your energy will no longer tolerate half love. It will only align with peace, respect, and reciprocity. The moment you stop chasing, the right man starts chasing peace within himself. He starts questioning his own patterns. He starts thinking about the way he showed up. He starts remembering the way you looked at him, the way you spoke life into him, the way you believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. And he realizes he might have fumbled something divine, something real, something rare and dead. And that thought sits heavy because now you're no longer available to fix it. You're no longer waiting. You're no longer asking for closure, because the closure came the moment you chose yourself, the moment you decided that love shouldn't hurt more than it heals. And that's when your energy becomes a lesson in his life, a quiet teacher that reminds him that good women don't wait forever, that real love doesn't beg. And that presence doesn't mean permanence. You become unforgettable not because you did something dramatic, but because you finally did something different. You chose peace over proving. You chose distance over desperation. You chose your heart over his confusion. And that shift shakes him to his core, because for the first time, he's not in control. For the first time, he feels uncertainty. For the first time, he feels loss. And it's not because you punished him, it's because you healed yourself. Because when you stop chasing, you stop participating in your own heartbreak, and you start protecting your own energy. You stop explaining your worth and start embodying it. And there's nothing more powerful than a woman who knows she can walk away with grace and not anger, with peace and not pain, with love still in her heart, but boundaries around her soul. That's when he realizes your worth. That's when he starts missing the way you made him feel. That's when he replays the memories, reads the old text, scrolls through the pictures, and it hits him not in the head, but in the heart, that you were never the problem. You were the peace, that your love wasn't heavy. It was healing, that your presence wasn't pressure. It was comfort. And now that it's gone, everything feels off balance. Everything feels quieter, colder, emptier, because your absence is louder than your presence ever was. And he starts to understand that the woman who used to chase was the one who actually cared. That your silence doesn't mean indifference, it means maturity. It means growth. It means you're no longer trying to convince someone to see your value. You're letting them face the emptiness of their own choices. When you stop chasing, you create space for alignment, for clarity, for divine timing, because you no longer operate from fear. You move from faith. You trust that what's meant for you will not require you to lose yourself to keep it. And that energy is unshakable. That confidence is rare. That peace is magnetic. And that's when the right man steps forward. Not the one who took you for granted, but the one who recognizes your worth from the start, because your stillness has become your strength. Your silence has become your statement. And your boundaries have become your beauty. You've evolved from chasing to choosing, from pleading to protecting, from waiting to walking. And now the only man who can stand beside you is the one who understands that your love is sacred, not something to be tested, but something to be treasured. Because when you stop chasing, you stop running after potential and start honoring your purpose. You stop feeding temporary people with permanent energy. You stop being addicted to almost and start opening yourself to wholeness. Because peace feels better than attention and clarity feels better than chaos. And when you reach that level of peace, you'll realize you never lost anything real. You just released what wasn't ready for you. And that's the moment a man sees your worth, not through your effort, but through your absence. Not through your chase, but through your calm. Not through your words, but through your silence. And that's the power of walking away with grace. That's the moment he finally realizes that losing you wasn't just losing love, it was losing peace. And nothing haunts a man more than the peace he pushed away. When you stop contacting a man, two things happen deep inside his world, things he will never admit out loud, but they start shifting the moment your name stops lighting up his phone. Because whether he says it or not, your absence creates a silence he can't feel. And that silence starts talking louder than your words ever did. At first, he might act unbothered, might keep his cool, might post a few stories to prove he's fine. But that's just surface, because underneath that calm, his mind starts racing, replaying, questioning, wondering why the energy feels different, wondering if you moved on, wondering if you're talking to someone else. And that thought doesn't sit well with him. It stirs something inside, something called curiosity mixed with regret. And that's when the first thing happens. He starts missing your energy, not just your messages, not just your voice, but the calm that came from knowing you were there. That feminine peace that balanced his chaos, that warmth that made him feel seen, even when he couldn't express it. Because men don't always realize what you meant until the dope noise stops, until the comfort disappears, until they scroll through your name and realize there's no new message, no new check-in, no reminder that you care. And that's when the mind starts playing tricks. He remembers your laughter, your tone, the way you said his name, the way you made him feel like he mattered. And suddenly he starts comparing that to everything around him. And nothing matches that frequency because no one else carries your energy. And he feels that void quietly. He might distract himself, go out, talk to other people, but the feeling doesn't go away. It lingers like an echo of what was real. And he doesn't even understand why he's missing you now when he had every chance to appreciate you before. But that's how human nature works. We recognize stability only after we've lost it. We recognize peace only after chaos takes its place. The second thing that happens when you stop contacting him is deeper, more internal. It's the mirror moment where he starts reflecting on why you stopped. Even if he won't admit it, it bothers him, it pokes at his ego, because men are wired to notice when attention is withdrawn, especially attention that was once consistent, because consistency feels like security to them. And when that disappears, he starts wondering, did I do something wrong? Was I too distant? Did I say something? Did she get tired? Did she meet someone better? And that's when his own behavior comes into focus, not because you reminded him, but because your silence forced him to. Because silence holds more power than any confrontation, it makes people face themselves without distraction. And that's where the real realization begins. He starts seeing the pattern, the missed calls, the half-hearted replies, the way he took your patience as permission. And that awareness doesn't feel good. It humbles him. It makes him realize that maybe, just maybe, he had something rare and didn't know how to hold it. And while he's reflecting, your peace starts shining in ways he didn't expect. Your glow up becomes obvious, not because you changed for someone else, but because you returned your energy back to yourself. Your focus shifts. Your aura changes. Your silence becomes elegance. Your calm becomes confidence. And that's when he starts feeling small in comparison to the woman he now sees from a distance, because nothing haunts a man more than watching the woman he once took for granted start walking in peace without him. That's when he starts wanting to reach out, not because of ego this time, but because of realization, because he starts understanding that the woman who used to care too much now doesn't need to. And that independence scares and attracts him at the same time. But let's talk about the real part. Why it affects him so deeply is because when you stop contacting a man, you're not just withholding communication, you're reclaiming emotional power. You're no longer feeding into the dynamic where you overgive and he underdelivers. You're rebalancing the energy. You're reminding the universe and yourself that love is a two-way street. And when you pull back with grace, not bitterness, not drama, just quiet peace, it disrupts his comfort zone because now he can't predict you. He can't rely on your response to feed his validation. And that mystery drives him a little crazy because now he's not sure where he stands. He's not sure if you're waiting, if you've moved on, or if you've simply outgrown him. And that uncertainty is powerful. It's the same uncertainty he once made you feel. Now it's his turn to sit with it. He'll go through stages: confusion, denial, frustration, then curiosity, then realization. And somewhere in that mix, regret starts whispering. And regret is heavy. Regret makes people think about all the small things they could have done differently, the text they didn't reply to, the effort they didn't make, the appreciation they didn't show. And now that you've stopped reaching out, he's left with his own silence echoing back at him. That's when some men start reaching out again, not because they suddenly changed overnight, but because they can't handle the quiet. They want to feel that energy again. But here's where your growth shows. Because if you've really healed, you won't chase that feeling anymore. You'll recognize that his message doesn't equal his transformation. You'll know that missing you isn't the same as deserving you. Because here's the truth. When you stop contacting a man, the right one will come towards you with clarity, but the wrong one will come back with confusion. The right one will reach out to rebuild. The wrong one will reach out to recycle. And your job is to know the difference, because silence doesn't just test him, it reveals him. It shows who values your peace and who only values your presence. And that's why this moment is sacred, because it's where your detachment becomes your strength, where your absence becomes your boundary, and where your energy starts attracting alignment instead of attention. He might do small things to test the waters, a random message, a reaction to your story, a vague text like, "Hey, how have you been?" And while he's trying to act casual, inside he's wondering if you'll respond like before, if the door's still open, but now you're different, you're grounded, you've learned the lesson. You've understood that your value doesn't decrease because someone failed to see it. It increases when you stop trying to prove it. And that's the most powerful energy you can carry. That's the energy that makes a man rethink everything. Not because you told him to, but because your peace spoke louder than your pain. And here's the part most people don't see. Your silence isn't just affecting him. It's healing you. It's rewiring your nervous system. It's restoring your self-trust. It's teaching you that you can survive without the connection that once felt necessary. It's proving to you that closure doesn't come from a text. It comes from acceptance. And when you reach that stage, you become untouchable because you're no longer operating from attachment. You're moving from abundance. You're no longer needing someone to respond. You're content in knowing that your worth is not up for negotiation. That's the real shift. When you stop contacting him, you don't lose control. You gain it because now your energy is not scattered, it's centered. And that changes the entire dynamic because men feel that energetically. They sense when a woman is no longer emotionally dependent, when she's grounded in herself, when her peace is her priority. And that makes you 10 times more attractive, not because you're playing a game, but because you're living in alignment, because you're showing that your love is valuable, your time is precious, and your peace is non-negotiable. And that's why he starts thinking about you more than ever, because now you're not available, not predictable, not waiting. And that mystery pulls him in. Because deep down, every man respects the woman who can walk away. Every man admires the woman who doesn't chase. Every man remembers the woman who loved with purity but walked with power. And when you stop contacting him, you become that woman, the one who didn't lose herself in love, the one who didn't crumble in rejection, the one who learned that distance is not punishment, it's protection. So yes, when you stop contacting a man, he does two things. He misses your energy and he meets his reflection. He starts feeling what you once felt. He starts realizing what you once gave. And whether he ever admits it or not, he learns that silence is a teacher, that distance is a mirror, and that peace is power. And that's the moment your energy becomes unforgettable. Not because you begged, but because you built yourself. Not because you waited, but because you walked away. And that's the real definition of strength. That's the kind of energy that changes the whole game without saying a single word.